16 with us at the moment, but I know last night we had an Asia Pacific workshop. It was DRRs, but maybe were there M&E folk in there as well, last night? Or was it just management?
It was with the deputy resident representatives and the operations managers.
Okay, so the
Yes.
M&E people might be joining as well, though it is a bit late on your side. So one of those extremely full agendas, we've drawn on our colleagues from last year to feedback to us some of the lessons from IPTET, and we have another contingent of how many, Mikhail, how many people this year have we sponsored to go to 2022's IPTET? 20 people? You're on mute. Okay, we've sponsored about 20 more people this year to go.
15 this year. Sorry, I was
Okay.
juggling my screen.
So as they roll out the courses this year, we'll also call on them to join, to give us a presentation and some feedback. So maybe without sort of further ado, as they say, I'll start with Ugian. I'm sorry, I call you Nguyen because it's a Vietnamese name as well, and I recognize it. It's a little bit different, but how do you pronounce it? Ugian, yeah?
Yeah, you're very close actually, Richard. Ugian it is.
Ugian, sorry. From the Bhutanese office, and then we have Shella, Mai, and Armin joining, giving us a presentation after that. So please, let's begin. We have a few updates at the end. We'll pause for questions after each of the presentations, and yeah, please, Ugian, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, colleagues. I just want to thank IEO before I start for the scholarship that IEO provided last year to help me undertake this course, IPTET course on rigorous impact evaluation. So what I'm going to do is today I'm going to talk a little bit about rigorous impact evaluation, trying to address some questions on what, why, how, and then leave with some key learnings, sort of reflection from the impact evaluation that we are doing in Bhutan. By the way, my name is Ugen Doji. I work as the RBM specialist at the country office. I've been over 2 years now in this role. Before that, I used to work as a climate change policy specialist. So I have over 8 years of experience in project and program and M&E now. Next, Mikhail. So yeah, so I was talking about this IPTET training I attended last year around the same time this May. So it was a 5 days program, about 2.5 hours in a day in the afternoons, Bhutan time. It was done online. So it was the course title was Fundamentals of Rigorous Impact Evaluation. I think this year they've changed it a bit, and it said everything you wanted to know but were afraid to ask. So it was a very lively, interactive, very practical oriented training, which I enjoyed a lot. Obviously, when it was done through, remotely, there were of course challenges. So basically during the training, it was basically about impact evaluation methods. Maybe you can click next, perhaps, Mikhail. So there are various kinds of impact evaluation, right? So the gold standard or the rigorous impact evaluation is what's called the randomized controlled trial. And there are others like difference and difference. There's this regression, discontinuity. But for this presentation, because we spend a lot of time talking about the randomized controlled trial in the training, so I thought it might be useful to just talk about randomized controlled trial for this, because I just have 5 minutes. Maybe can you go to slide number 5, Mikhail? Or maybe 4, please. Mikhail, I see the, can you go a slide, maybe earlier slide back, please? Okay, so it looks like something
Yeah,
is missing.
I think
Anyway,
let me just adjust that. Just you can keep going. I'll adjust the slide. There is some formatting issue.
okay. Anyway, when we are talking about impact evaluation, we're actually trying to assess the changes that can be attributed to a particular intervention, be it a project or a program or a policy. But in UNDP, we end up doing, pre and post project evaluation, which has quite a lot of limitation. Yeah, this is a better one. Thank you, Mikhail. So yeah, in UNDP, we usually do pre and post project or a program evaluation, which has a limitation because it does not answer the counterfactual question, questions such as, and it doesn't, it assumes that no other factors led to the change. For example, there could have been a possibility, maybe there was another program or a project happening at the same time, like ours, or maybe there's a change in a situation, maybe there's an altered sort of economic condition. So there's no way with this pre and post project thing, there's no way of ruling out this counterfactual scenarios, right? So no way of answering this counterfactual question. What would have happened if there were, or if there were no other programs happening at the same time? Can we be absolutely sure that UNDP's project or the program has actually led to the impact? So that's a limitation. Next, please, Mikhail. So we have a GCF project on climate resilience starting 2020. It's a $25 million. So it's a requirement from the GCF to do an impact evaluation over and above the midterm, interim, and final evaluation. So that's why we are doing an impact evaluation. So if you look at the left chart there, the RCT, that's what we are using. So that's going to, for example, the lower line is the counterfactual, right? So that's the control. So if there was no project intervention, the resilience of the communities will be shown by the lower line. The upper line is the intervention, the scenario under the implementation, right? Project implementation. And then the difference, obviously, of course, is the impact. So that's what we are going to measure when we are doing after the experimentation. So this is some of the picture you can see. By the way, I also have Sangi Chopel, who is the project manager who is leading the implementation in the field. So there you're seeing building climate resilient irrigation system, which will help enhance the production of mostly rice and other vegetables in more than half of Bhutan's population country. Next, Mikhail. Next slide, please. Okay, so the randomized control trial, it answers the counterfactual questions. What will happen to the population without the program? And use experimental control to isolate the independent effect of the program. And of course, it provides rigorous evidence on the program impact. I explained that earlier. The next, please. So RCT in practice. So what we are doing, I just wanted to share some of the experiences. So we have a project, 25 million, which covers more than half of Bhutan, 10 districts of Bhutan, right? And it started in 2020 and will be until 2026, 6 years project. We spent 2020 and 2021 just designing the IE. The project was approved in the later phase of mid of 2020. But as we were designing the RCT, the impact evaluation design, some of the project's interventions already started. For example, in 2 districts, the project implementation already started. So therefore, we could not set up the control in these 2 districts. Therefore, we had to exclude these 2 districts from our study. So these are some of the challenges we have when we're setting up experiments. So we only have 8 districts, and from there we have selected 75 TOs. By the way, the lowest admin unit in Bhutan. So we have district, sub-district, and then the lower level is TOs. So we've selected 150 homogeneous TOs. Of course, we have a team, a statistical firm, And then we also have a professor in economics from a university in Paris who are helping us design and do all this statistical analysis at the background. So we have selected 75 TEOGs as experiments and 75 as treatment. Next, please. So how it works. So I informed that 2020 and 2021 we spent designing. In most of 2021, we did baseline data collection and also the randomization, right? So how it works, control, obviously, it's very difficult to set up trials in real life situations. So how we have done is for 2022 and 2023, 75 TEOGs randomly selected again will receive the project interventions, while the other 75 will not receive the project interventions. So these are randomly decided, right? So, and these ones will act as control, the other one will be treatment, obviously. And after 2020, so during 2024 and 2025, we will just reverse it, and the treatment will now, after 2024, treatment will act as control, and that's how we are going to do it. And of course, during this period, there will be a rigorous follow-up data collection and monitoring to see whether the control is actually control and treatment is actually treatment, because there might well be a situation where controls are also getting the treatment, then it will mess up our experiment. Next, please. So I just wanted to show visually. So these are the representation, just to show that it's randomly and then it's homogeneous. Of course, we have, as I said, we have a team behind who have expertise in statistical analysis and economists in the team who are helping us with the experimentation, design, and also implementation. So it covers half of the project actually covers half of the country, district in terms, but only 8 districts were taken for experimentation because of the reasons I shared earlier. Next, please. And this is my final slide. Again, I just wanted to share some of the key lessons, reflection, or challenges that we have faced so far. i.e., if you use the rigorous impact evaluation, the randomized control trial is very costly and time-consuming. Because you need a robust planning, you need to set up baseline, then design and control setups, and you have to do monitoring. Then there's this ethical challenges. So how do we decide which beneficiaries will be controlled or treatment? Because if you make a certain population control in year 1 and 2, it means that they will not receive the project intervention. So it's a delayed intervention. So these are some of the ethical challenges, because obviously when you do a climate change adaptation project, people need those beneficiaries as soon as possible. So those sort of questions are there. And then of course, the construct, resilience is very elusive. So of course the product has so many indicators measuring them, but we need to be very careful in terms of selecting the right questions to actually answer this question. Now, there's also a confusion. Obviously, this RCT in social science is a relatively new field, although this is been done in medicine and agriculture and other sciences very much, but in social science it's new. So therefore, there's this confusion between impact evaluation and regular monitoring and evaluation. Because we also need to do monitoring for the impact evaluation per se. And then because there's a cost involved, and in Bhutan, most of our projects is nationally implemented, there's a lot of eyebrows raised by the government in terms of why you want to actually do the impact evaluation. Why is it, monitoring, why is monitoring and evaluation, the regular not sufficient? Then lastly, of course, there's a challenge in terms of political will and sensitivity. We might well have a situation because of COVID and so many other challenges, resource constraint and physical limitation. We might have a situation where, a few years down the line, somebody might say, forget this, we don't want to do it or something like this. So these are the things, some of the reflections. I do have a slide where I have given some links, which were also shared during the course. So I will leave it, Michael, to share with colleagues. If you have time, please go through them. One of them is a TED Talk by Esther Duflo. I mean, she won a Nobel on these RCTs. So yeah, on your spare time, please go through them. Back to you, Miguel. Thank you so much.
That's great. We'll take 5 minutes for questions, and let's just, it's only 5 minutes, and I know with a randomized controlled trials, we could probably talk the ins and outs of them for hours. It's funny you mentioned Esther Duflo, because I was just reading about her the other day. I'm reading a book called Utopia for Realists, which I would urge you all to look up, by Rutger Bremen. And he talks about, she's a huge advocate, Duflo, for evaluation in general in development, and obviously for RCTs, and she won the Nobel Prize with, I should remember his name, Sujit, yeah.
Abhijit Banerjee.
That's it, he's famous, very famous. So the floor is open. There's only a small group of us, so please open your cameras, don't be shy. And let's have 5 minutes of questions. Anybody have any points to raise? Either raise your hand or just jump in. No, I have a ton of questions, but I don't want to. So, I mean, let's start maybe with cost. You mentioned the project itself was 20 million plus, but I was just interested to know, do you have a estimated cost for the RCT?
Yeah, so in terms of money, because this is a GCF project, so we have actually enough money. My colleague Sanjay is here, he may want to correct. We have in total $250,000 over a period of 6 years, right? To cover impact evaluation and also the other monitoring and evaluation. So we have actually sufficient money, but because this is a nationally implemented, national implementation modality project, so the government is quite, and because of COVID and other resource constraint, the government is quite, mindful of these costs, and they want to reprogram that. So these sort of challenges are there. For now, we have spent some money to mostly in terms of engaging consultant. I mentioned a professor from a university in Paris, her engagement for the design, and some money for the baseline collection, I mean, local cost and all. I mean, I can provide you for, but this is still ongoing at the moment.
So just projecting forward to 2026. So you're going, I mean, actually, I was surprised. It seems like a reasonable, it's a lot of money, but don't get me wrong, but it's a reasonable amount for an RCT. So projecting to 2026, what is expected to be done with the results, whatever they say? Do you know what the plan is there?
So 2020, so we've done the design, we have done the baseline collection. So 2022 and 2022 and 23 will be the first period, right? Where we'll do some group will have control treatment, some will have what you call control, and during that period we will do monitoring and also do data collection. So we have a list, a set of questionnaire, trying to understand. Some questions we'll be constantly asking these communities or beneficiaries, and then collecting data. We plan to have some sort of an interim report sometime towards the end of 2023, early 2024, but that would be after we have done the first set of experiment, right? Then we need to reverse it, swap it, so that we actually then do with the other group. So the final report will be sometime in 2026. So we won't know until 2026 what sort of impact our project has actually made to the community. So that's again another thing, because we were spending a lot of resources, designing, collecting data, but you'll have the report only after 6 years. So, I mean, people will be very tired of this, I think. Hopefully not.
But I guess you have a valuable, data source for other projects as well. You could use for across programming.
Yes, we also have other vertical fund projects, GCF, Jeff projects, which are also in some ways similar, which can also help us provide some data towards that.
Sujita, you want to jump in? Yeah, see your hand up.
Thank you again, and Sanjay, for sharing a very interesting evaluation. And just quick question, like I was wondering, because of COVID and the mobile population, the mobility and so on, like how this evaluation is taking care of the spillover effects. Because I can see in the map that they are very adjoining, right? The selection of the cases and controls. So just a quick question, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question. We had a lot of challenge related to COVID restriction, right? We were initially planning to bring the international consultant to Bhutan to do a field visit, but she couldn't do that because of COVID restriction. Just as we were planning, the COVID thing came, and of course, we spent a lot of time trying to explain the country context to her, and I think we spent a lot of time doing the design. If she had been able to come to Bhutan, done the physical, context understanding, I think that would have been easier. Your second point on the spillover effect, I think it's a very important point. So that's why this monitoring visits is very important, because you need to see whether this population is actually there or not, right? And then make the adjustment in the design as we go. And also to see whether the controls that we have set are actually controls, because this project is in a way decentralized, meaning we have empowered. In Bhutan, it's mostly decentralized because the districts and sub-districts, they are empowered to implement the project, right? So the money fund flows to them and then they implement. And we have set the experiments as controls, and we want to, in the monitoring visits, we want to be absolutely sure that the controls are remaining as control and they're not getting the treatment, because otherwise our data sets will be all messed up and then we'll not have the right analysis and assessment. I hope I answered your question, Sujita. Over to you.
Thanks so much. And I really, the resources you put at the back end of your presentation, please have a look at those, everybody. It's a great opportunity for free learning from YouTube on randomized controlled trials. And yeah, thank you very much. I learned something as well. And I hope we can continue the conversation in the future. I'm glad to see somebody's actually doing it as well. All right. So you did some training and it's proving useful in your everyday work because you're now doing it in one of the projects, which is great, right?
Yeah, I mean, this training was very useful in terms of really understanding what is it about, right? I mean, if I had not run the training, it would have been very difficult because there's a lot of convincing that we need to do to the government, to the beneficiaries. I mean, that's a very important. If we don't understand ourselves, that will be very difficult, right? I mean, and of course, the consultant is not in the country, those sort of things. So it helps when you understand the subject to convince people and then to make it happen. So thank you, IEO and IPDET, and for that. We will be happy to share the report or the findings as we have them.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. So that was a great presentation there. Can we hand over to Mai, Armin, and Sheila? I think Mikhail's going to run the slides as he did with you. So
yes.
You just please jump in as you want.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, the three of us, we want to thank IEO for this opportunity to participate in the National Evaluation Systems in Public Service IPDET course. We really learned a lot, as you will see later in our presentation, and it didn't just benefit us personally as M&E practitioners, but also our colleagues in the country office, but also um, partners that we work with. So this particular workshop, it draws from documented experiences of governments that have evaluation systems. So you have your established systems like Canada, Colombia, Mexico, South Africa, and you also have your countries like Ghana, Kenya, and Botswana that are also working on national systems of different forms. And it was quite enjoyable for us because we approached the course through case studies, and I think that helped us learn a lot about the specific lessons from these countries. And it didn't just explore, the technical elements of institutionalizing evaluations within the public service, but also the cultural and the political elements that are involved. So it's very practical in that sense. So next slide, please. Okay, so first I'll go through my specific learnings. I specifically appreciated their emphasis on defining what evaluation systems are and what are the key roles within evaluation systems in different contexts. So it recognizes, for instance, the supply side and the demand side. So from the supply side, you have your evaluators, your VOPs, your academic institutions, your consultants that should have sufficient capacity to be able to provide sound and quality evidence. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have the demand side, which is composed of your policymakers, your decision makers. And these people are the ones who use the information obtained from the evaluation, the evidence that they get from that to make course corrections to the implementations of projects, to design new projects, so the evidence will hopefully inform those. And at the middle, you have your knowledge broker. So these are your M&D units, and in the Philippines in particular, I see this role as being played by UNDP as well, because this is the group of people or the units that broker the demand and supply of evidence. And I learned also that when evaluations are no longer commissioned and conducted on an ad hoc basis, and if there are more permanent arrangements that guarantee the supply of the evaluative information and there's demand and the evidence is put into good use, then you can say that you have a functioning evaluation system. And what was really featured a lot is the case of the South Africa Department of Program Monitoring and Evaluation, because that particular system has been evaluated as well. And so they were telling us about the lessons that they learned. And I saw how the DPME, through its many iterations, has played a successful role in promoting the importance of evaluations in government and in providing guidance on how different types of evaluations can be undertaken by other ministries within South Africa. And they were able to successfully establish an evaluation culture within the government and a common language around evaluations through trainings, through proper communication, and through promoting the use of these evidence that are generated from the evaluations. And how I've applied it. So sorry, I wasn't able to introduce myself before I started. So my name is Mai. I'm the management and oversight specialist at RBAP. I recently joined the bureau. Prior to this role, I was the RBM analyst of the Philippines country office. And then there we have a government finance project called Strategic M&E, and it is financed by the National Economic and Development Authority. And since 2016, we've been supporting them on national evaluation capacity building. And one of the most recent asks from the department is for UNDP to support them in establishing a central evaluation unit. So that was also the reason why I applied for the course, and I'm very grateful to IEO for giving me the opportunity to learn, because I was able to cascade my learnings to the UNDP project team, also to the NEDA monitoring and evaluation staff. And the timing was so right that that was also the time when we were setting up this unit. So the learnings I got from the different cases, different country profiles, I was able to contribute to the definition of the functions and the roles of the unit within NEDA, but also in the broader monitoring and evaluation scheme of the country. And also I was able to develop terms of references for the unit members. So as you can see below, those are the job postings for the National Chief Evaluation Officer, the managers of the evaluation unit. And lastly, I was able to learn from how the different countries were able to, identify what the goalposts are to get to the overall objective of well-functioning evaluation system. And using that knowledge, we were able to adjust the theory of change of the project. So it's been really helpful, not just for me, but also for colleagues and to the government as well. So over to you, Shella, for your learnings. Thank you. Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Mary, for that in-depth briefing on the National Evaluation System. And I want to extend also our appreciations to the National Evaluation Center for giving us the opportunity to scale through the scholarship. I think it was very useful and it was timely as well, especially for a country like Gambia that is just coming from a dictatorial regime. A lot has been learned, and we see the need for a national evaluation system to be put in place. So from as highlighted by Mary, there are some key issues that I actually personally learned, like how to stimulate the demand for evaluation at national level, as well as changing the perception on how people perceive evaluation as well. The models, the approach, the relevant frameworks, legislations, as well as tools required in institutionalizing an effective and sustainable national evaluation system. And I also see that it is very critical in setting up this national evaluation system to improve efficiency, effectiveness of intervention, which change the diversity of programming at all levels in achieving the greater goal. How countries with established evaluation system are able to achieve the intended impact as compared to those without the evaluation structure. As highlighted by Mary, I think we had a lot of case study like that of South Africa, Sweden, and many other that we use, and there was a lot of group sessions that we could exchange ideas on how to improve, even on not just limited on the national evaluation system, but also on our own evaluations through our programming and also our project, and how we can incorporate them for a greater goal. I also try to look at the forward-looking approach, how to ensure that this national evaluation system can be more sustainable, or an approach in which we can encourage these national stakeholders to also see how they put the structures in place. So I think there is need for advocacy at national level to ensure that national evaluation is taken as a priority for the government, especially for program and project implementation. Existing evaluation structures to be used to build on a long-term plan for national evaluation. For instance, UNDP, the Gambia, has actually supported a national evaluation unit for the Office of the President. And I would think it would be good to use that to build on for a longer period, because actually coming up with national evaluation system takes a lot of processes and also legislations and policies. And with Gambia being a country that is just coming from a dictatorial regime, I think it's a bit tricky because there are many funding that goes into other areas. I don't really see them setting up a national evaluation as a priority for them now, but I think it's very essential for us to use those existing structure, like the support that UNDP provided to establish the National Evaluation System at the Office of the President. I think that is one of the way we are looking at continuously supporting that. UNDP should also support key decision makers at policy level on the workshop as well. So they also have the knowledge and see the importance of creating this national evaluation system in place, because if you see from what we learned, it actually helped in terms of efficiency, effectiveness. This also will also guide them in terms of developing probably their national development plan, because it will help to see the key priority areas that they can intervene in the future. Also support the government to ensure evaluation follows an increment approach. As Maria has said, evaluation should be something that is continuous to make sure that it's more sustainable and it's more effective. If we let it be like, and if we don't put seriousness and we don't ensure that this is continuous, I think we'll miss the overall objective of evaluation. UNDP should also support the establishment of a national evaluation technical team at ministerial level to follow up on the evaluations and recommendations. So that is the way forward we are looking as UNDP. However, there are other critical challenges, as I earlier mentioned. One will be resource, because the resources now is more focused on transitional justice, where the government is trying to see how they can move back to more of a democratic process. So, but notwithstanding, we are still working with them to ensure that evaluation are seen as a priority for the country. Also, I think there's a political to accept for UNDP to support an MIE evaluation unit at the Office of the President. It shows that there's a political way. And we are looking at also engaging them in terms of developing a theory of change for evaluation. So more resources is also required. As I first of all emphasize, I think the only challenge we have right now with the Gambia office is resources. So, but notwithstanding, we are working closely with the government to see how we can mobilize resources in this area. Over.
Thank you. And if we can go to next slide, please. Now Armina with you from Armenia, and my slide is very much in line with what already Mai said and Sheila said, but I took perspective from different angle. So going forward, and lessons learned as food for thought. So my message number one, and as Mai put in her slide, she started with supply, yes, supply, but the second is demand. So let's think how to help two countries when there is no demand as such, or when these processes are more supply driven and the quality is to some extent lagging behind or catching up. So I even try to be a little bit provocative through my these few points which I'm going to present. Why? Because there is upcoming next, for example, national evaluation capacity development workshop, and sort of let's think together, understand what common approaches can be taken to help those countries that need such tool. Maybe the comparison which I'm going to do now, maybe not very direct and even seem not very relevant. For example, in area of gender equality or in area of human rights, there were some mechanisms that somehow pushed the process. So let's think together, or going forward, looking forward, understand what those mechanisms could be, can be to effectively push the process ahead. While in theory, everyone understands that this is very important and there is needed and it's core of development projects, but are we there? Yes, sort of, I'm sorry putting more open questions than providing answers, but yes, summarizing, my point number one is let's understand what can be done to increase demand and how to help countries to push this from zero agenda and in a qualitative manner. In maybe one is a common approach, right? One direction. Other direction, maybe these entry points through voluntary national reviews, through, I don't know, this international integrated national financing processes which are going on now, maybe open government partnership, maybe public administration processes, maybe something. So let's think what mechanism can be provided to countries which are lagging behind to have more results in this direction. Yes, one approach is that countries, they should have their own tools, but there should be also some mechanism putting everyone on the same page or close to each other in this in relation to this issue. Maybe another mechanism can be South-South or other types of cooperation to exchange experience. Another problem is cost. Those systems are very expensive in a resource. They need a lot of resources, and not only in terms of money, but time, evaluations as we go, and knowledge and people in place, etc., etc. And also, last but not least, maybe digital solutions, right? Because it's very much on the agenda now. And for example, the cases that we were presented as case studies, sort of they were successful in their own time. But if we put these topics on the agenda, looks that we need to integrate more digital solutions, more artificial intelligence, more big data to revive more these processes and tools. So yes, my points were rather food for thought going forward, and let's understand what tools and mechanisms can be suggested, because looks that they should be not linear. For example, it came through also a review of case studies that experience of one country and lessons learned of one country is not necessarily helpful for other countries because context is completely different. And well, it's sort of, yes, people were willing to listen and understand, but at the end of the day, it was not very applicable in their particular context. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me also say, if I'm not mistaken, it was first time in UNDP when these grants were supported for employees for this knowledge. Please continue. It is very, very much needed because there are particular topics that we need to learn more. For example, the previous presentation, this impact evaluation, in relation to all these innovation and digital processes which are going on. For example, this impact measurement and management process is part of some projects already put there, whether it is helpful or not. So please continue this, supporting this great knowledge opportunity. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you, Mai, Stella. Sorry, Shella, and I mean, that was a really comprehensive overview of the IPTEC course. And I mean, yes, you know, previously we supported people to go in person to IPTEC, which was lovely for the 1 or 2 people who could go to Canada or Switzerland once a year for 2 weeks. And COVID meant we could pivot and support even more people to do the online courses. And as long as they remain online, then we will continue to open them up to other people. So just let's take, we're at the Q2 point. Is there any questions from the room on that quite comprehensive presentation? I have one or two. Yogesh, do you have anything?
I do have a couple of questions as well, but I thought let colleagues give it a first shot.
Well, get the ball rolling. Why don't you, Yogesh?
Okay, thanks. Armin, I'll start with you actually. You talked about all those, the principles and what should be there and how one can do it on a broader scale. My question was, have you tried anything in supporting these things in Armenia, that you're working with the government and, helping either look at the supply side or the demand side or whatever, we call it, about assisting the government to establish these systems? And if so, you had any issues, challenges that you faced and any lessons for the wider group. So probably a bit on that. And one question I had for Shela after that was this office, the M&E office in the office of the president in Gambia that you talked about. Great, this thing. And again, similar, what have been your experiences and lessons and how is it working? What are the key issues that are coming up towards, institutionalizing this next system, knowledge evaluation, national evaluation systems? I'll stop there.
Thank you, Yogesh. Let me start. I will be very brief. During the previous National Evaluation Capacity Development, we have experience of organizing ministry, the Ministry of Economy, and Deputy Minister presenting. When we start the discussion, the sort of usual approach is that give us standardized tools to get there. And since it is expensive, quite expensive, and not something it needs well strategizing and well programming and well financing. And whatever we did was fragmented, but since there is no authentic demand from the government, it is not part of any government program. There are other priorities which are burning. Sort of, this is, yes, we understand it's important, but let us do with our ongoing fires. And yes, the experience is rather fragmented. We have this association, but no one knows about them in work as such. So the actions are rather fragmented, and yeah, better thinking is needed from where this should be put, especially that there is no open, clear demand from government to take it longer. Further.
Thanks. Shela, do you want to come back?
Yes, please. If I get the question correctly, it's in reference to the National Evaluation Unit at the Office of the President. Are you asking about their challenges and how we are able to work with them?
How is it going, basically, in terms of you established that? So how is it now integrated within the wider national systems and, the performance, and what type of issues and challenges you're facing?
Yeah, I think setting the National Evaluation Unit at the Office of the President was based on the fact that they coordinate most of the projects that comes into the country. So it's easy for them to make the final assessment of what is working well and what is not actually working well. But again, there has been a lot of issues that make the unit not to be very effective. One of which is lack of data, especially at the baseline level. So the country actually lack the capacity for data collection. Even though we have the Gambian Bureau of Statistics, we still find it very challenging to obtain data from them. So we are trying to take a step back and see how we can start the support from the Gambian Office of Statistics. So we are trying to strengthen their capacity in terms of collecting baseline data and also preservation of data, not just data, but evidence-based data, which are qualitative. So we actually have to take a step back, to be honest, to see how we start to strengthen the capacity of the Gambian Bureau of Statistics. But notwithstanding, we are still trying to see how we engage the unit of the Office of the President to see how we can also build on their capacity, because there's really lack of capacity on that end as well. Sometimes people still have this misconception about what evaluation is all about. They felt like probably evaluation is an audit. They don't see it as an opportunity to learn. So it's something that takes process. And if you look at the slide, I talk about advocacy. There's still need of advocacy, in-depth discussion to change, first of all, the mindset. Because even the people that you put to sit in those units, they are really receptive about evaluation. So it's about behavioral change. So we need to also try as much as possible to change their behavior, to see that, to see the benefit of evaluation. So it's still a challenge, but we are working towards getting there. I hope I answered your question.
No, thank you. You hit the nail on the head. Actually, these are the critical issues. Over back to you, Richard. Thanks so much, Shella.
We have a hand up. Ian, do you want to jump in?
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Very exciting to learn about helping countries develop the national evaluation capacity. We've also received a similar request from the government to help in Bhutan to help them build their national evaluation capacity. So we've already reached out to IEO and our GEI, Global Evaluation Initiative, to help us do that. Just wondering, I think there's an assessment that is usually done, right, called M&E systemic analysis. So I just wondering, obviously you must have done that. What was your experience doing that MESA systemic analysis, and how receptive was the government in doing that, and what were the challenges and sort of key lessons? I don't know, any of you. Thank you.
Maybe we can throw that to Mai. When you first started this program with NEDA, did you do it like GEI has this now standard MESA system, but I'm sure you did something similar for the Philippine government and for NEDA?
Yeah, actually, we did an assessment of the existing evaluation capacities of NEDA and of the whole government. And what we used as a framework was then the UNDP evaluation capacities assessment. And then that really helped us design the project. So we found out that the system needed, because there was already a national evaluation framework, but what was lacking was the implementation strategy for the framework. So when we first came in and developed the project, we said we will develop the evaluation guidelines to operationalize the national evaluation policy framework. And then from the assessment, we learned about what kind of skills were needed by government, by both the supply side, so the evaluators from the country that will be doing the studies, and the demand side from government, that needed to be done in order for the supply to continue and the demand to continue, and for there to be a balance between the two. So yeah, that was our experience.
Did you do, or have you done a sort of a MESA type system?
Sorry, can you say again?
Have you done an assessment of the structures within the country related to monitoring and evaluation, data collection, to identify the weak areas, or the areas that need, you could target your support?
No, because there is no program priority on that. And by the way, on the side of Independent Evaluation Office, I see this National Evaluation Diagnostic Guidance. Am I getting right that Gambia example was built based on this tool?
So maybe I can jump in there. There's the UNDP developed some 5 years ago a system, a self-assessment system, and it's in the. I'm just putting it in the chat now. That's a terrible name. Please check, Mikhail, that that's the right link. And that is a system that's very easy for countries, governments to use to sort of just track the maturity of the system and identify areas that they need to work on and strengthen. The GEI, who we're now partnering with, equally has developed a monitoring evaluation system assessment.
Systems assessment, yeah.
Yeah, and that can equally, details of that can be equally found on their website, the GEI website, which is here. Now, they're looking for countries to test this MESA system in, and we would be happy to support countries in testing using that system, right? So it's the GEI's system, and UNDP is a joint partner in the GEI, and we're you know, because we work closely with you, we're happy to look at how we might go about implementing a MESA wherever there's an appetite to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, and Richard, it's just being tested right now. You know, in Solomon Islands, they're trying to use that and see how it works. So over the coming weeks and months, I think it'll be really, really getting mature. And as Richard said, you know, probably Bhutan is a good country. Yeah, let you say, or any other country for that matter.
Yeah. So please have a look at it, and we can talk again further about looking at how we roll this out. And maybe even your colleagues in the Philippines, it's probably now 4 or 5 years into that project, worthwhile doing another review.
Yes,
going
definitely.
back.
The national evaluation policy has actually been recently evaluated,
Okay.
and which captures also the contributions of UNDP to improving, you know, existing systems. So this GEI tool will definitely help a lot also. I'll recommend it to country office colleagues. Thank you.
You're welcome. So
This is
maybe
very informative. Yes, we will, of course, look into this. We will discuss in the country office. And good, you mentioned the country offices which pass through this and doing this now. So yeah, I took all these notes.
Great. Have a look at the GEI website, and then we can have another conversation. I mean, or you can have a conversation with Yogesh about that and see how we might take it forward with your government, and Sheila as well, if you want to. So we're at the hour, and I think it's been a great morning. So thank you, colleagues, for the presentation. And, you know, very much interlinked now, because, you know, we do seamless presentations at IEO and everything has a connection. So nothing all is there. Please move on to the next slides and you'll see an absolutely seamless integration of topic. If not a seamless presentation format, but anyway.
So Richard, do you want to show the following slides
yes,
on the
please,
next?
please,
okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
So you may have seen some small notifications. Some of you were involved in the National Evaluation Capacities Conference of 2019, which was in Egypt, in Hurghada. Obviously, COVID has led to some delays in both the rollout of the next one and also slightly in the format. But we're happy to announce that this year we're going to have I think the 7th NEC conference in Turin in Italy, which is rather pleasant. And Yogesh and I have just returned from there to have a look at the venue. We're going to hold it in the ITC, as the ILO's International Training Conference. Is it training conference facilities, which is really nice place to hold it on the Po River. We're going to have about 200 people will be invited to take part and present. And yeah, it'd be, if you could just move on to the next slide, Mikhail. So the objective, as with previous NEC conferences, is to share the progress, lessons, innovations on national monitoring and evaluation systems, to use the opportunity to enhance skills for government partners, and foster existing and new partnerships. And maybe I need to just take a step back there. This is very different to your normal evaluation conference. This is not focused on evaluation practitioners, you know, normal consultants or UNDP agencies. This is focused on government agencies, organizations, people who are rolling out M&E plans, people who have plans to do that, people who are setting up and want to strengthen their data collection for M&E. And also in this year's NEC conference, we want to focus a little bit more on CSOs, academia, and also think tanks within the countries. And I guess that goes back to, I mean, what you said, you know, this is about supply and the demand, and in the middle, the UN agencies who are brokering. Next slide, please. The focus for this year's NEC, given everything we've gone through, is very much on the national evaluation systems, but looking at resilient national evaluation systems for sustainable development. So we'll have 3 days, first day on national evaluations, second day on the sustainable development goals, focusing on gender, climate change, and evaluation in fragile and conflict countries. And then the third day, which will look much more on methodological tools and technology. So next slide, please, Nicole. In the next few weeks, we'll be sending, or next few days actually, we'll be asking all country officers, and Oscar, the director at IEO, will be sending emails to your resident representatives and the regional management, asking you to identify 2 to 3 to 4 staff, 2 to 3 to 4 government colleagues or CSO colleagues or academia who would be really would benefit from taking part in the conference. Statistical agencies, CSOs, as it says there. We sent out yesterday a call for abstracts. So that is also out there, and we have documentation to share with you to support that dialogue with government. And we are working on a bursary program, and it's likely we will have some bursaries to support government colleagues to join the NEC, as we have done in previous years. So yeah, I think last time round we had quite a contingent from NEDA, and we've had people actually in Hurghada, we had over 500 people. We've scaled it back because of COVID, but it's still a great opportunity to share experiences, and it's something I think everybody in this room should consider identifying early, because the early bird, of course, gets the worm. So if you can start thinking about this now, then putting forward some people for consideration, then they will see who we can invite, and we're likely to decide on who we'll invite around July into August. So that's the end, and I guess this is the Ask Us Anything part of the conversation. So if you've got anything you want to ask us in general or around NEC, I have one more little piece of news, but I'll open it up now for any questions. Okay.
Hi, Richard.
Hey, how are you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you share about the GI system. Sorry, I couldn't catch the name of the framework. So indeed, actually, the Malaysian government are quite interested to also set up a proper monitoring and evaluation system. The problem here in Malaysia is that so they are trying to make sense of how the monitoring and evaluation system for the new 5-year plan can gel with the national SDG data system, which is under the purview of a different government agency, the Department of Statistics. So in their mind, they can just make use of whatever data that has been collected for the SDGs, all the SDGs, target indicators and whatnot. So that's under the purview of the Statistics Office. But at the same time, for the new 5-year plan, they have intention to come up with like a monitoring and tracking system to make sure that they are on top of the achievement and the results of all of this 5-year plan on an annual basis. So they have actually mentioned this to us, to UNDP a few times. However, this systemic challenge, they don't know how to resolve. So I'm really interested to know how UNDP with our existing tools, like we have quite a robust evaluation system and framework. That's why I've actually got in touch with a few colleagues of mine as well to understand the process of like how do we convince the government, what sort of steps involved in like planning out the system to eventually, developing a system that is sufficient for them to monitor the 5-year plan. So I'm not sure if Mai or Ugyen or yourself, you have anything to share on how can we approach the government, how to start.
That's a great question. And Mai, unfortunately, has had to step away because it's obviously late with you guys over there. I mean, obviously in Asia Pacific with the work that they did with NEDA. It didn't just start with the project. There was a lot of discussion beforehand. I think it'd be useful to have a chat with her to see how they convince them. The MESA tool and the self-assessment tool, I think would be useful because there is a tendency for governments to barrel forward with a belief that, the different structures they have are the right structures for whatever they are doing. Whereas the MESA tool is more of and the self-assessment tool are both sort of taking a step back and just mapping the structure and seeing actually, it helps you to identify exactly these sorts of problems you have already. So you've identified one problem, two systems possibly in contradiction with each other. And if there are other system problems likely there already as well, no underlying regulatory frameworks, maybe too many regulatory frameworks. You might have a case where each ministry has a different M&E policy or guidelines so that gives you the whole planning, the whole MESA and self-assessment just gives you an opportunity to take a breath and to map all of this out, to identify with the government, because they'll be doing it, where these contradictions might lie. And especially, our self-assessment tool especially was meant to be done by government partners themselves. It's designed to be done simply by them. With the MESA tool, I think it's a little bit more you need some technical support to go through it, but it's still being tested.
Sorry, what's the difference between these two? The self-evaluation capacity assessment and then the MESA tool is still quite...
So the MESA tool, when it's finished, is going to basically take into consideration several different tools that are already out there. So we have a tool. We looked specifically at government sort of structures. Others have a tool that look more sort of holistically at VOPs, voluntary organizations, civil society. So there were many contradicting tools, and the MESA tool has been taken an opportunity to bring them all together, or bring several of them together. So when the MESA tool is fully ready, that would be the one to go with, I would say.
Right. So as a start, we can probably like introduce the self-assessment tool just for the government, the M&E unit within the government to know the capacity within themselves. Yeah.
You can look, it's very simple, right? If you go to the link I put there, you can log in yourself,
Right.
and just follow through the questions. And I would urge you to do that, especially just to double check that it is something that's applicable for your situation. I think it would be. But you can see it's very simple. It's a very sort of, and at the end of it, it gives you a few pointers of what are weak areas and what need to be maybe focused on going forward.
Okay, yeah, I would need to do some research and study myself first. And if there's anything, I think I will reach out again, either to mine for a chat.
But also just pushing the National Evaluations Conference. This is an opportunity to you know, get them out to Turin. They'll meet people at all levels of maturity of an evaluation system.
Yeah.
And it'll
Sure.
be.
I'm really excited to see that. Yeah. So like I already have a few people that is relevant. Yeah.
And Richard, probably, you know, there may be a session on NESA in the whole.
Yeah, there will be. There
a
will
training
be. Yeah.
session, a training program for one day. So yeah, we are still working that out, but there is a possibility of that. Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, let's have a chat, Lingli, and then we can, you know, we can. It'd be really great to have some people from the Malaysian government there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Right. A couple more questions here. Maria Luisa. Hi, Maria.
Yes. Yes. Hello, everyone. And can you hear me?
Yeah. Which country are you from, Maria?
I'm from Peru, and my name is Maria Luisa Lopez. Everybody calls me Malu, and I'm part of strategic planning team in Peru, and I have a little general and at the same time a specific question. It is more related about evaluation of projects of FMAM projects. In Spanish, we call it GEF. And GEF projects. And my question is about the management response plan, and following the guidelines of this kind of projects. The purpose of the team management response is to outline how the project team, implementing partner, UNDP, and other relevant stakeholders respond to the recommendations presented in the TE. And I'm reading exactly what the guidelines said, but the problem is that, and sometimes when we have it's difficult to follow that the government, for example, and other stakeholders are following the recommendations, because for example, when the project ends, or for example when it's the government and we don't have to, and we cannot do it mandatory. So I don't know, maybe what is the recommendation or the suggestion or about how to following the recommendation of the management response plan, especially because we have to upload it in the ERC platform.
Yeah, I get what you say, you know, that once the project has come to conclusion, the government moves on, yes? So they're not often interested in responding to recommendations.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, so this is a situation where the projects have concluded and the government is not really going to commit to any further adjustments. I would, in those cases, you might want to, you know, stick to what UNDP is going to do to respond to the recommendations. And in that case, it's what UNDP is going to do differently, either with new partners or new projects going forward to take on those recommendations.
It means that maybe all the recommendations have to be not exactly for the in the case that we have a project that is closed. It means that recommendations must be more general, not only for this project.
So that's it exactly. I mean, it might be it might be specific recommendations to the project, but you can underline how you will take it into consideration for future similar projects, either within the outcome or within the specific area or the output area.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. You had another question, or was that no? We've lost you. Uyen, was your hand up, or have you decided against it?
Yeah, perhaps if there's no other question, maybe just a quick one. Something along what Lean asked earlier, because we've also received similar requests from the government to support in terms of the 13th five-year plan, which is being developed. And the request is to set up an M&E and monitoring, M&E and accountability framework for the 13th five-year plan. Currently, the 12th five-year plan is happening. So we are already in discussion with GI to sort of kickstart the MESA. Of course, it's very initial at the moment. But I was just wondering if there's, you mentioned Canada, I think some colleagues mentioned Canada as a very good example, but is there any other country example, I mean, in the region which you can look up to and do some study in terms of good evaluation capacity or culture? I don't know. I was just wondering, Richard. Back to you. Thank you.
I mean, that's a great question. The Philippines, of course, always comes to mind because it's a little bit maturer. Some places in India, I guess, have good systems. Pakistan even set up a very good SDG monitoring system, but it was more specific to the SDGs. Trying to think. Yeah, it's a good question, but those are the three that sort of jump out. Okay. Let me think, and we can touch base again as well, because I have a list and we have the experience from the previous NECs. So just one last note I wanted to mention. Oh, somebody's put something in the Sujita. We sent a note round to M&E focal points, regional M&E focal points, and I hope it has made its way to country offices, that we no longer require UN SDCF evaluations or UNDAF evaluations to be part of the evaluation plan for the CPD. Now, for ongoing UNDAF evaluations and those UN SDCF evaluations that have already been uploaded to the ERC, we're working out how we can deal with those technically, either by closing them off or working with you to close them off, because we don't want to just remove them just now. But going forward, you don't have to include or keep up to date. Well, you don't have to include the UNDAFs or UN SDCFs within your evaluation plans. Don't touch them in the ERC just yet, because we'll work out an organizational wide approach to addressing that. Any questions? Gada, this came somewhat from your region, but anybody have any questions? I'm sure you're all breathing a sigh of relief to see something move off the ERC.
Not a question, but maybe if you find applicable relevant at some moment, if there is time, would be good to go through evaluations which are quality assured as 6 to learn what is different from 5 to 6. Thank you. In practice, I mean.
So, unfortunately, I mean, we don't have that many 6s anymore, right? And I mean, I could count them on one hand, probably the last few. 5s, we have a lot. And actually some really good 5s out there. So within your region and elsewhere, we're going to be promoting them. You know, we updated them in the guidance, has been updated to include more 5s and 6s as examples. Are you able to search the QA scores to find 5s and 6s as well?
5, yes, even we received several 5s last year.
Good.
But good to learn further and understand the road from 5 to 6.
Okay, we've done a breakdown of all the data from the last 4 years of the QA, which is with the regional focal points, and they should be in negotiation with your regional focal points to start doing some training and giving that data out. So to inform you of the results from last year.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Amin. Thank you, everybody.
Richard, again, huh?
Yeah, go ahead, again.
Yeah, sorry, just final question from my side. And Arvind mentioned about Project QA. I was just checking in our system, and I was also reaching out to Hamidi in our region. You know, 2 of our projects, which the evaluation were completed in 2021 and 2020, midterm evaluation of JEF projects. When I couldn't find the rating score for these projects, I mean,
we don't QA Jeff midterm reviews.
Okay, just wanted to find out. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, because they're viewed as a monitoring tool as much as anything, because they're done in cooperation with the, yeah, so we don't QA them as much as I would have liked to. We don't. So sorry, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great, thank you all for your time, 1 hour and 20 minutes, that's great. So glad many of you stuck around and got up late or got up early, whichever it is, wherever you are. But we'll do this again in 6 to 8 weeks, so taking us into June, maybe with some more IPTEC colleagues or more of a focused review of planning. Because June is the point where you need to have all of your evaluations sort of more or less planned going forward to ensure you get them done by December.
Mm-hmm.
Draft terms of reference and things like that. And, you know, I was smiling, Armin, because I know we always have the same problem, right? We're like, yeah, we know we have to plan everything and start everything by June, and IEO is the same. And then we get to June and we start to panic. So
this is very important. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care. Please show your cameras so you see your faces, smiling faces. Nargiz, Sujiti looking good, looking well after your holiday. Lucky you. Hey, Nargiz. Farouk is not bothering. Farouk's probably gone. He's gone for a coffee. Hey, Saifa, how are you doing? It's nice to see all the offices in the background and living rooms as well, right? Take care. Have a lovely week.
Have a great week, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.